taking a break from the truck restore, and I got to get this done, and I got to get this done because, you know, things need inspected and stuff. This is a clock spring, and it goes on that thing. First thing you do, battery, disconnect. And then in this Kia, this is a Sportage, and this is an 08 Sportage. Got to take off these little covers, and right here is a Torx bolt. There's two of them, one on each side. Those have got to be at least loosened. I'm not sure if they have to come all the way out. Some versions you just loosen them and that gets off the front part. Steering wheel's got to come off to change the clock spring. So here we go. Okay, I just want to state that this was actually a lot easier than I thought. The steering wheel goes on here, and two things coming up from the clock spring. They bolt into that or slip into that. These little clips are a little awful to get off. You have to flip these babies up and then they pull off. They are color coded blue, green, and hey, Kia's made it nice for us. Blue and green. I was lucky. I thought the steering wheel was going to be harder to get off, but I simply just a little bit of muscle and it came right off. Mine is straight, so I know what it looks like. Otherwise, I'd put a marker here and on here to sort of line it up. Next thing it's got to be, it's just unscrewed, is this here. This thing pulls apart like that, which allows us to get it four, I think they're Phillips screw bolts here, 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 and here. New one goes on. Just want to show you, just so you know here, so you can be clear. Little screw bolts here. I would try and hold this and unscrew these babies, but it's a little bit difficult to do that. And if you don't have a really professional camera setup system, which I don't, you can see here there's the third bolt I'm taking out or third screw. Then it makes it difficult for you guys because you're always moving around like that. So I'll show you how some of this goes back on when I get there. And then what you basically do is reverse the order. I just want to reiterate that if I was thinking that maybe I'd need a steering wheel puller, and there's some screws or bolt holes here that I could have used that with, but luckily for me I didn't need it. I've seen people where they've had to do it and they've stripped these threads right out. So I gotta say I'm lucky, but otherwise, you know, use a regular steering wheel puller and get the right size bolts, the right length that can screw into this and remove the steering wheel. Okay, there's a couple of things in the new clock spring. There's two there's two connections here. The big one here, this little piece here, right here that I'm sliding, it slides up and pulls out. And then this piece here, all you do is you squeeze the tab and it pulls out. So it goes back in the same way, and doubtful I can get a good shot of this, but we're gonna put those back in here and then put this back on. You notice like that. You'll notice that there's a lock here, and that keeps it in place. Don't remove it until you're about ready to put the steering wheel back on, then take it off, because you don't want the clock spring to move or jumble around, because you could break it when you turn the steering wheel. So that's where we are now. We're back. We are going to screw this, put those connections in, put this up, put the they give you new bolts, new screws with this. I don't know why, but they put the new put the screws in and then put the steering wheel back on. All right. Okay, this is what it looks like back in place. Now we're going to screw it on, and then these, of course, go into the airbag, and they're color coded to match where they're supposed to go. But That's not done until the steering wheel is in, and so we'll do that here in just a second. Just a for those who kind of have a little frustration with this, these two screws right here are easy to get out. This one right here is a real pain in the ass. It's far up in there, it's very difficult to see, and it's hard to get your Phillips screwdriver on it, but when you do, it'll come out with a little bit of, at least on mine, with a little bit of effort. But everything's snapped together here. Now it's time for the airbag. Again, just to show you how the airbag works, these things snap in, and then you bring across the retainer, and it just snaps on. And then do this last, because it will bind up your wires if you try to do it before and get it on there. Then all you do is, and these screws, by the way, that hold this on right here, these screws right here retain in there, at least on the 2008. They don't come out. And you just sort of flip it over here and you put it on. First thing to do though is to torque down your steering wheel. Don't forget that bolt. Okay. Hey, how you doing? I thought I would make sure that you understood what I was using here. I'll put a link in the description for the Clockspring. The best thing I would recommend someone do is get your own tool. I used an Ansell ABS and airbag reset. This is the AD610 Plus. It's not the best, but it's also not a cheapie, and it did just fine for me. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this is probably necessary. After I changed my Clockspring, what happened was the airbag light wouldn't go away. The SRS light remained on. One thing changed, and that was the light came on, went off for 5 seconds or so, and then came back on. I couldn't get that to go away. Before I changed my Clockspring out, the light would just come on and be steady. So there was something wrong with the Clockspring to be sure, but I couldn't get the light to go away. Now, instead of going back to a mechanic or the dealership or whatever, it's going to cost you $150, $200 for them to pull the codes. I got this for less than $150, way less. And so there's no reason why you can't do it for yourself. To pull the code, which I'll show you a picture of what the code looked like on the Ansell here. I've got a snapshot of it coming at the end of the video here. And but also for the Kia in particular, you're going to need a transition. It's not going to accept the regular plug for the OBDs, so you need a Kia specific plug that will provide a linkage between the unit itself and the Kia. I think it's a 20-pin. A Kia 20-pin plug, which looks like a regular rectangle plug with like little rabbit ears on it, jutting out. So that worked well with this. I will say this about the Ansell AD610 Plus is that the company was less than helpful. Most of the companies that make these things are overseas. You can imagine what country they're in or they originate from. And so you're pretty much on your own once you get them. I mean, you really are, unless there's somebody out there who can leave a comment about a company that is more responsive. That would be great. But these guys were not very good, so I took a risk and I got a converter from this to the Kia, and it worked just fine. After that, everything is self-intuitive. Everything worked on this, so. This is a hefty investment. This one in particular, by the way, without downloading any software, which you need, by the way, a Windows machine to do it. You can't do it on a Mac, which is regrettable, actually. These guys are all Windows specific. I think it runs from 1998 to about 2016. If you get anything newer, you're going to have to update software, and you have to use their tool to do it. I can't comment about that because I'm probably not going to do it. All my vehicles are pre-2016. So, but what I can say is that this thing worked well. They didn't pay me for any of this. I just researched and tried to find out what I wanted to get because I really didn't want to take my car back to any mechanic to charge me another $150 for something that I could do for myself. So anyway, I'll show you that code, the solution to the light remaining on, even though the battery was pulled, ground cable was pulled, is I had to use this tool to clear the code myself. After I cleared the code with the Ansel 8610, the light has not come back on. So that's just sort of an, I was frustrated with it. I thought that the clock spring was faulty. That's a possibility, or the airbag could have been faulty. But that wasn't it. It's just some of these codes are stubborn to clear, and the only way to clear it is with the unit itself. So far so good on that, I'd say. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm not necessarily happy with the communication with the company. But man, I tell you what, if you're going to do anything on any of these new vehicles, you know, save yourself some money and get one of these babies, and you know, save yourself a lot of headache and save yourself a lot of money.